History is supposed to move forward. That's how we're taught to see it. Primitive to advanced, ancient to modern, past to future, a straight line. And if that line breaks, we panic. Because if history only moves forward, then collapse can only mean one thing: the end. For a long time, I lived inside the idea. Eschatology, AI, predictions of endless wars. Everything felt like it was pointing towards a final chapter. The end of peace, the end of meaning, the end of civilization itself. Without realizing it, my mental space becomes structured around endings. But over time, something shifted. The exposure to constant culture wars started to change the way I moved through the world. I couldn't fix anything, and I couldn't step away either. Gradually, it began to drain something from me, so subtly that I only realized it once my energy in my sense of possibility had already started to wear thin. In 2019, Canadian writer and activist Astra Taylor published a book titled "Democracy May Not Exist, but We'll Miss It When It's Gone." At the time, the idea felt distant, almost abstract. Now it feels personal, like something we thought was stable is already fading. Maybe that's why Bugonia's ending resonates with me. It's not that the twist is unexpected, or that it plays out like a nihilist punchline, as if the ending of the world were there to indulge some subconscious desire. It feels more like relief. By the end, the arguments fade, the hatred quiets, the beasts return. The story falls back into its beginning. The world seems to reset.
It all starts with something magnificent.
As if it has been given another chance to start over. Because in Bugonia, the ending isn't really an ending. It's a rebirth. And that brings us back to the title Bugonia. The word comes from an ancient Greek belief and ritual, the idea that beasts could emerge from the carcass of dead ox or bull. It sounds absurd, but it carries a different logic. The new life doesn't emerge from purity or stability, but from decay, collapse, and death. A more familiar metaphor is the phoenix rising from its ashes. The way the film is structured mirrors that ancient belief precisely. It begins with the birth of a hive, moves through the collapse of a human society, something that resembles colony collapse disorder, and ends with beasts returning in silence after everything has fallen apart. And that, I think, is what the film is trying to do. Through a kind of fatalistic lens, it shows us the ending of the world that has lost its meaning, and then suggests another way of seeing it. And that is, after the end, there can be a beginning, a cycle. History is not a straight line. The official poster is doing something similar. We see the confrontation between the worker bees and the dying queen. The queen is consumed by the very hive she once ruled. And in the carcass of the ox, bees emerge. It echoes the cosmological cycle of the universe. From new moon to full moon, everything turns. In an interview in 2022, filmmaker Chloe Zhao said something that feels especially relevant here.
Lately, when I'm writing, I'm trying to not go this plot like this, because I always find that ending and the beginning being too far from each other, because everything in nature, in life is cyclical, right? And except when we tell stories, somehow it's just one line. We start from here and get there.
Maybe this is the beauty of circular storytelling. We are used to stories moving in one direction: setup, confrontation, climax, resolution, the classic 3-act structure. Circular storytelling isn't just a narrative technique or a poetic experiment filmmakers play with. It's one of the oldest structural ideas in mythologies and in many philosophical views. A worldview we have forgotten. That is, time moves in cycles. As seasons turn, empires rise and fall, and the life and death become phases rather than endpoints. Ancient Greek civilization emerged from the collapse of Bronze Age. The Renaissance bloomed after long stagnation of the Middle Ages. It's reminding us humanity has already lived through countless endings. What we're facing now may simply be another turning point, and that is a profoundly different emotional experience. Linear endings offer closure, circular endings offer perspective. From this perspective, the ending of Bugonia becomes the most hopeful part of the film.
What's great about hitting rock bottom, Eddie? There's only one way left to go, and that's up!
Why do civilizations seem destined to decline? Is there such a thing as an ideal form of government? These are questions human beings been asking for thousands of years. Back in the 2nd century BCE, these questions become the obsession of Greek historian Polybius. Polybius lived during the later Hellenistic period, when the Roman Republic was expanding across the Mediterranean and slowly bringing mainland Greece and the Hellenistic kingdoms under its influence. As a leading member of the Achaean League, Polybius was taken to Rome as a political hostage following Rome's victory over Macedon in 168 BCE. From there, he witnessed firsthand the Republic's transformation into the dominant power of the Mediterranean. For Polybius, this was a profound shift in power. Little more than a century earlier, Alexander the Great's conquest has carried Greek language and culture across the Mediterranean and deep into the Near East, shaping the entire Hellenistic world. During this period, Greek philosophy, science, and artistic expression reached remarkable heights. In many ways, what we now call Western civilization still rests on the foundations laid in that era. The interesting part is that Aristotle, one of the Greek greatest philosophers, was invited by Philip II to tutor young Alexander. At that moment, philosophy and political power were closely intertwined. And yet, within a few generations, the center of gravity shifted. The cultural prestige of Greece remained, but political dominance passes to Rome. And it was precisely this contrast between cultural brilliance and political decline that made Greece's loss of power so striking. Polybius devoted his life to understanding how such reversals were possible. In the histories, he set out to explain how Rome had risen so rapidly and why political systems, no matter how strong they appear, eventually decay. In Book 6, he proposed what later became known as anacyclosis. He believed government moves in cycles, from monarchy to tyranny, from aristocracy to oligarchy, from democracy to mob rule, and back again. The idea echoes across centuries. In the Middle Ages, Thomas Aquinas reflected on the corruption of political forms. During the Renaissance, Machiavelli, in his discourse on Livy, examined the recurring cycles of republics. Later, Enlightenment thinkers began questioning whether democracy could sustain themselves. John Adams, one of American founding fathers, specifically referenced Polybius when warning about the vulnerability of republics. In modern culture, one of the most influential reinterpretations of this idea appears in Isaac Asimov's space opera, Foundation. In the story, the mathematician Harry Seldon predicts that the Galactic Empire at the height of its power is destined to decline. He foresees a long, dark age for human civilization. In order to shorten this coming collapse, Selden developed psychohistory.
Trantor and the Galactic Empire will lie in ruins within 5 centuries.
Imperium is 12,000 years old, Doctor.
Are we really to believe
That it could be gone in just 500?
Maybe quicker.
Quicker.
A rotten tree trunk appears strong until the storm breaks it in two.
Through psychohistory, Asimov explored how civilizations fall and rebuild in response to structural imbalances. And yet, this kind of history feels distant from us. It's difficult for us to think in nonlinear ways, because we live in an age defined by acceleration. For roughly 250,000 years, human beings lived as hunter-gatherers, the vast majority of our existence as Homo sapiens. Then came around 10,000 years of agricultural civilization. Industrialization took only a few centuries. Digitalization, barely half a century. And now, we speak in the language of algorithm and attention and wondering whether artificial intelligence might one day develop consciousness and emotion.
Hello, I'm here.
It is this acceleration that has created a new reality, an illusion that nothing can stop us, that the future must be better, that humanity will colonize Mars, merge human brain with machines, achieve some form of digital immortality. Science, in this vision, becomes the new religion of modern civilization. And this is the danger of the linear accelerating narrative. If history is a straight line, then when it fractured, there's nowhere to go but down. If decline is linear, collapse becomes final. It makes us question whether we have any place in the grand vision of the future, whether the choices we made have already set us on the wrong path. We cannot let go of the past and imagine the future, and we struggle to remain present. This is the underlying root of anxiety. Of all the series about political cycles, the one I like the most comes from Plato. Plato was a dualist, unlike Aristotle, whose view was more grounded in material reality. Plato believed that visible world reflects a deeper, invincible order. In the Republic, he suggests that political collapse begins not with institutions, but with the soul. When the inner order of the human soul deteriorates, the order of the state follows. In Plato's view, political collapse is not caused by losing a war. War is only a symptom. The deeper cause lies within the moral decay of citizens, in the imbalance of the soul. What a civilization ultimately loses is not a battle, but its sense of meaning. If we think in terms of circular structure, Polybius' theory of political cycles is a systematic extension of what Plato had already suggested. And if I had to name one circular narrative that I love the most, it would be Denis Villeneuve's Arrival. In Arrival, the film seems like a mystery about alien invasion at first, but when we reach the end, the non-linear way of showing time suggests the future and the past exist simultaneously. When Louise learns the alien language, she doesn't predict the future, she remembers it. And suddenly, the ending of the film, her daughter's death, becomes its beginning. That circular structure changes the emotional experience entirely. The ending is not simply tragic. It holds birth, love, joy, and loss together. Past, present, and future collapse into a single emotional horizon. In Ted Chiang's original short story, this temporal folding feels even more intimate and precise. During the promotion of Arrival, Denis Villeneuve often said this was the most hopeful film he had ever made. Not because it avoids tragedy, but because it offers a different way of seeing it. What matters is the journey itself, and to live in the moment fully and wholeheartedly, to make peace with the uncertainty, let go of what never was in your control, and see the pain and struggle not as mistakes, but as part of the life journey. In storytelling, there's a well-known framework called the hero's journey. A hero who is called to adventure, faces trials, confronts death or crisis, and ultimately returns with new wisdom or power. Many great films follow this structure. We are drawn to this kind of stories again and again, because when a hero comes back, they become a better version of themselves. Let's return once more to Bugonia, not just its circular structure, but the image at its core, the collapsing cave. Plato reminds us that the order of the world reflects the order of the soul. Perhaps that's what the allegory is pointing toward. Every collapse begins inward, and every renewal must begin there too, that the soul must remember what it is. We live in a time defined by advanced technology and constant acceleration, and yet, on a spiritual level, we are just wandering through the ruins of a lost civilization. Attention has become the currency of our time. From the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep, we consume an endless stream of news and content. Over time, the mind adapts. It begins to prioritize reaction over reflection, entertainment over creativity, and slowly we start to lose our imagination. In response, more and more people began to step back from the noise, leaving cities that never sleep, logging off platforms that never pause, and returning to books that require focus rather than fragmented. It's a recovery of the soul and a rebellion against whatever order governs our world. There are many remarkable filmmakers doing the same. They remind us to return to the shared ground, to a space where our soul can rest. This channel was born out of that realization, a return to great films and filmmakers in search of another way of seeing the world, a way of asking what it really means to be human, of rethinking society, history, and time, and of exploring the truth that lies beneath what we call reality.